celebrating 16 years of Young Turks.
PRIYANK, KHARGE, AMITABH, KANT and RAMESH, ABHISHEK for a power-packed panel. A huge round of applause for them. I would also like to invite PRAMOD, BHASIN, President I, Delhi and NCR, and SANJEEV AGGARWAL, founder Helion and Fundamentum, to join this esteemed panel. Also, please welcome our moderator and managing editor, CNBC TV 18, Shireen Khan.
Let me start by asking you, PRAMOD, BHASIN, because you spend a lot of your time dealing with startups at the Thai Delhi NCR chapter as well. You've heard the big targets, you've heard the big numbers, you've seen government policy. Is it all really coming together on the ground?
I'm amazed as to the interest in startup levels, and if you look around and see the number of companies that are doing some astonishing work in almost every state across the country, I think the numbers actually are much larger than what we see they are. Having said that, we still have lots of pain. We still have lots of growing up pains which are somewhat our own fault because of the way our own systems and processes work, and therefore it's very hard for small companies very often to take their goods to market.
Okay.
3 years from now, #1 startup nation in the world, because the momentum and the interest levels are huge.
Put down the one thing that you believe the government needs to do better. And I'm only asking about the government here because, in a sense, policy really sets the foundation for whatever we want to do from here on to achieve that target of being the #1 startup nation.
One is the amount of red tapeism that is involved still at the ground level is still way too much. There's too many licenses, too many forms, too many checkpoints, too many people getting in the way. Movement of goods and services back and forth is still too hard. 2, shutting a company down. To be able to take a loss, shut a company down, move up, get up, do the next thing, I think is absolutely critical in the startup environment. And if you're going to be saddled and stuck worrying about what you do with the company and who's going to come after you, etc., that becomes a huge. The last one is a much bigger fish which affects all of us, which actually I think is responsible for reducing our country's growth, GDP growth, by a couple of percentage points at any point in time, is just legal reforms. Getting things tough through the law courts. We have talked about this now for 25 years. Yeah. For God's sake, when will we get past it?
You're absolutely right. And Sanjeev Agarwal, let me put that point to you. The overriding theme is one of massive optimism, as PRAMOD, BHASIN just pointed out. You're betting on that optimism. You've just launched a $100 million fund with Nandan Nilekani, Fundamentum. You're hoping to create the next Bharti Airtels, the next Kotak Mahindra Banks, the next Infosys of the world. What exactly gives you hope? What are you going to be looking for specifically?
I think what we are betting on are entrepreneurs who are long-distance runners. Because India, as I said during our conference, is a great startup nation. But India is still an unproven scale-up nation. So when we try to grow rapidly, the wheels are coming off. And is it about factors outside our control? The answer is no.
Yeah.
My personal belief is that India is a very conducive environment for entrepreneurship.
So why do you believe the wheels are coming off? Why are we not making that transition from starting up to scaling up?
I think it's evolution. And the first phase of folks who entered entrepreneurship were probably more driven by somebody else has built a startup. I think, but after the cleansing which happened in 15, 14, now the folks who are coming into entrepreneurship really want to leave a legacy. So my sense is it's a progression.
Mr. Kant, let me start by asking you, I know your big theme is that Indian companies must go global, that Indian companies need to capture much more of the global marketplace. As we make this transition from starting up to scaling up, what is it that you as an enabler can do to ensure that that is in fact a reality?
Whatever you're going to get in the domestic market, the big bucks are out there. 10x of what you get in the domestic market, you'll get outside. No country in the world has ever grown without exporting. Post-World War II, Japan, Korea, China, all grew, they all grew at high rates for more than a decade because they were able to penetrate global markets. And Indian startups don't just look at the domestic market. It's not possible for you to grow for long periods. People will tell you, we've got a huge domestic market, just forget it. Look at size and scale. Look at the global markets. That's where the big bucks are. Governments basic attempt has been that we try and create an ecosystem where we can do ensure that startups don't fall into the valley of death. We handhold them, we support them, we make them rise up. But the important thing for startups is that please do have a sustainable business model. And once you have a sustainable business model, have professional management. You must learn the art of what was said right now. Learn the art of scaling up. That's really the key.
Mr. Abhishek, you're putting together a new industrial policy, sir. This is going to be the first new industrial policy since the former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's industrial policy of 1991. I'm given to understand, and this is source-based information, so you can confirm it for me, sir, that one of the ideas behind this new industrial policy is to ensure that a lot of Indian companies actually make their way into the Fortune 500 list. Give us a sense of what we should expect from the new industrial policy, sir.
In this new digital and world of smart technology, is a sharing economy, all those things will be factored into by us while making our policy. If I just can mention here, see, the biggest challenge I would say, as has been mentioned by Mr. Bhasin, is ease of doing business. Our regulations, our procedures, we all know are perhaps the biggest obstacle to our businesses growing in this country. And for us, for the government of India now, and the state governments in last 2.5 years, it's become an article of faith for us. We have done a lot of work, but we know that if we have done X amount of work, we need to do 100X work. So that is the kind of work that all of us are trying to do.
Okay. Questions? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Manish Singhal from Pi Ventures. We are a venture fund. We invest in AI-based companies. My question is more in terms of government being a customer for Indian startups. So what we are seeing is like a lot of Indian businesses earlier never used to buy from Indian startups. And I think we are seeing that change, that Indian businesses are willing to buy Indian technology. I want to know whether there are initiatives in place to make it easy to work with the government as a customer for Indian startups.
We are moving slowly towards giving certain bit of contracts to startups. And we run something called the Grand Challenges every year, wherein we throw open a challenge that is plaguing governance within the state for startups only. And we fund that entire pilot ourselves. And if you're successful in implementing that challenge that is plaguing us, we absorb that entire solution within the government. But besides that, we are also trying to see how we can ensure more and more startups participate with us. So in the health department, there are more than 7 to 8 startups that are piloting with us. In the Department of Tourism, I have 12 startups working with me, under me, for trying to create various circuits. So we are at it. So we hope to accelerate that.
Okay. Mr. Abhishek, a quick word on that front, sir.
You know, now that we have a electronic platform in Government of India called GEM, that's the Government E-Marketplace. Government of India now wants to procure all goods and services through this platform. Almost 2,000 odd products are already added to it. Almost 65,000 suppliers are there. We are carving out a special place for startups in that platform. I will encourage all startups to register there. And I can assure you that you will get priority, whether it's a search of the products, services, we'll give you priority on that. In last 1 year, we have already removed the criteria of prior experience and turnover for supplying to the government. But the GEM platform is going to be a game changer for startups. It removes all intermediaries. I think this direct interface between startups and small businesses with the central government departments and PSUs is going to be a game changer for startups.
We're out of time, but I cannot end without getting a woman entrepreneur to ask a question here to our enablers. NITI Agarwal, go ahead.
Thanks, Shireen. Hi, I'm NITI Agarwal. I represent Karya.com. I'm a big believer of the consumer-led economy in India. I'm a big believer of fragmented supply chains, which should be disrupted with technology and sort of become one pristine value chain, especially as we develop product-led brands, which are aspiring global revenues, right? How are you going to fund these long-run entrepreneurs, serious entrepreneurs, without a specific Series A funding pipeline? Mr. Agarwal?
We think is that in India, to build a real company, it takes a decade. And for all my peers, our advice tends to be that operating leverage in India comes in not the first 5 years, but the second 5 years. And therefore, it is good business to be a long-term investor because you can then do non-dilutive growth, which creates value for investors. So our fund, Fundamentum, is set up with exactly this objective, that we want to back people who are in for long haul, people who are built to last and not built to sell, and people who are focused on corporate culture, customer centricity, unit economics. And I think businesses that are built with strong foundation.
There's no shortage of funds. There's no shortage of good amount of funds to flow. There's a shortage of good startups. And it's important that as more and more innovation takes place, as the sharing economy moves forward, as disruption takes place, the challenge for government really is to constantly ensure that the regulatory regime keeps pace with the innovation so that India is always ahead of the rest of the world, and that's important.
Kindly accept our token of appreciation from our Young Turks and gift partners, thelabellife.com, Napa Dori, Vajor and T-Bakshi. I would like to thank our sponsors. 7th Young Turks Conclave is powered by Satyabama University, driven by Ford Mustang, wealth partner, Ask Group, luxury partner, Rado, hospitality partner, Andaz Delhi, India's first luxury lifestyle hotel, and celebration partner, Bira 91.
Internally, we have a saying that we let old people do new things and new people do old things.
When you're self-funded and you're bootstrapped, I can tell you it was the worst thing that happened to us. But in hindsight, it was actually the best.
Celebrating 16 years of Young Turks.